Thank you very much, all of you, for the warm welcome. I'm really happy and excited to be here today with you. Today we will discuss regarding security evaluation we did with a few colleagues in the University of Aegean, what we managed to exploit, what are our evaluations, and what we saw and find in these different cases regarding the password managers, browsers, and VPNs. Starting the presentation, we will have a short introduction. We examined that we have two basic questions regarding our study, and we try to evaluate which modern password managers and VPNs store plaintext credentials in their process. And in the context of the password managers, of course, you can also find other type of clear text storage within the memory. For example, credit card information, addresses, etc. Whatever they, in most cases, whatever they store it in clear text, as we will see later on. And the second security question we tried to examine was in which extent this information is repetitive. For example, can we find this type of information multiple times within the same process? Why we did this study? We all understand that, especially for password managers, they are the crown jewels of a network. Most attackers try to find ways to elevate their privileges, and they usually stumble across a locked password manager. So having this exploitation way of using their credential within the process in clear text format could allow an attacker to move further within the network. Regarding the threat model, to understand better this type of evaluation, we focus solely on user access. No administrative access was required. The vault must be unlocked. If the vault is locked, you cannot extract encrypted information, and the capability of executing commands in the operating system. This means that the attacker in this threat model had specific commands that could be executed within the operating system, say with C2 communication or reverse shell, whatever you want to say it. So, regarding the overview, we examine, as you can see here, different categories, 12 desktop password managers, 12 browser plugin password managers, the 5 browsers that are the most common, the most popular ones, and 21 VPNs. Regarding the VPNs, we have separated them in two categories, the commercial and enterprise usage. We separated our study with different scenarios. The most focused one should be the first scenario. It's about the opening the password manager and dumping the process, because it's the most common one among the users. Regarding VPNs, we focused solely on two scenarios, the first and the last one. The difference here is that we observed that in some VPNs, it was possible to extract the clear text information from the process without requiring the user to enter again their credentials. They usually store this type of information in other types of files or in different settings of JSON files or whatever, and they reuse it. So it's not required from the user to interact with the VPN. Here, okay, it's a bit of mistake, but here we can see that we have the different scenarios to have an evaluation how we can understand each process. As we discussed earlier, the first one, the last one are the most interesting ones. We can see that we tested other cases, like manually locking the password manager and unlocking and dumping the relevant process and everything else. But we simply used the first and the last scenario to report to its vendor because we believe that they are most crucial. It's also important to see a timeline of the study. Why is this happening? So sorry about that. So we have here a better view. So we have a timeline of the study. It's crucial to understand why the study first started at the July 2023 and concluded on March 2025. This is important because this is a two-case study. We first started by examining only the password managers, the browsers, and the browser plugins, and then we moved to the VPNs, and what we will see later on about product responses and best practices. It is important because we will see different things regarding responses from the vendors and what they applied and when they applied each one of these fixes to understand how effective is vulnerability researching and disclosing such vulnerabilities. So here we have a quick table regarding the results. We focused again on the first scenario regarding the password managers. In the left scenario, we have either a tick with a leakage or an X with no leak. The column with the M stands for master password, the one we use to unlock the vault, and the E stands for the entries. Like we use the username and password of our favorite website, Facebook, whatever we like to enter inside the password manager. We see different versions. Versions are quite important. I will see later on regarding the exploitation method. And this is all about the left table. On the right table, we will see that we have different numbers that symbolize how many times did we manage to find its leakage. For example, in the second case, in the Bitwarden case, we have 18 leakage, 18 times the leakage of the same entry within the process. Here we have the browser leaks on the left side and the browser plugin leaks on the right side. As we can see here, all browsers leak their information in clear text format within the process they have. There is only one note about Firefox. This is about the exploitation. We will discuss it later on the methodology. But as we see here, we also have different issues and with the browser plugins. We can see that we have, for example, 4 times the leakage of the master password and 7 times the leakage of different entries that the user can enter in their password manager. Another interesting observation is that regarding commercial VPNs and enterprise VPNs. As we can see here, we have only the username and password leakage, as VPNs only need that to connect in most cases. They do not store any other type of sensitive information. You do not have any, say, way to enter credit card information or everything else. So this is only what we're looking for inside these applications. As we can see here, interestingly, the case of the commercial VPNs, there are not so many leakages. As we can see here, there are only 4 cases, while on the negative side, we have 3 out of 5 in the enterprise VPNs. This means that in most cases, when a user connects from an enterprise VPN, they usually use their domain credentials, the domain user credentials. As a result, an attacker that just got access to a victim's workstation and succeed with such an attack, they can gain access to the username and password of this domain user. Here we have a bar chart to visualize these differences between password managers and VPNs. As we can see here, in most cases, we have the password managers. This is only indicatively because the numbers between these two applications are not the same, and every time this can change. For example, if we take now every password manager and VPN and examine them, maybe we find different things. But we can see here that in most crucial cases, we have both master leakage and entries leakage regarding the password managers. Here is a better overview, the total comparison between them. In summary, it seems that VPNs do not have this type of issue within their process, but we cannot say the same for password managers. The outcome of the study after these 2 years was to reserve and assign 3 different CV IDs from Kaspersky, NPAS, and Fortinet. The 2 URLs of the studies, if anyone wants to study deeper and understand the methodology and what we evaluated. And of course, we released a public open source tool named Pandora that uses the methodology to exploit these specific cases of password managers, browsers, and browser plugins. So let's move to methodology. While it was known so far from most of us that password managers, browsers, all this type of applications store the credentials in clear text within memory, there was no way to exploit that. So we managed to identify a way and separate it in 2 case scenarios. The first case is regarding a pattern-based attack. Basically, here we have highlighted in the yellow numbers, the yellow hexadecimal format, is how the process has inside in clear text format the password. So we are interested about the bytes that are either before or after, or in both cases, to be able to identify the password within the process. Surprisingly, in most cases, the before pattern and the after pattern will be the same. Of course, this could change between versions, as we will discuss later on limitations, but since we are discussing this on exploitation in the methodology, if you change the pattern, you can also achieve the same results. The other information that we can get is about the repetitiveness, is regarding how many number of times this clear text formation is within the process. So what we can do here is, if we found this type of information and compare it within the process file, or the process in the RAM or whatever, how many times we can find that? If we can find it in a specific and stable number of times, we can either combine it with a pattern-based attack and extract this type of information from the process. Here we have a simple code to visualize how the exploitation works. We have the search pattern in the placeholder 1, up here. There is a series of bytes that we use to identify it within the process. Then we try to find this type of pattern within the process file in the second placeholder. And at the end, here, if we find this pattern, we try and start and gathering different type of data, whatever there is inside the bytes. We gather all these type of bytes, and we stop when we find 2 consecutive spaces. This is only for the specific case. For example, say with 1 password or whatever. This is not the case in every password manager. Each password manager has, and VPN, they have different exploitation and patterns to use to find the passwords within the process. But in this case, in this scenario, we needed this number of bytes, the specific pattern before, and to find 2 consecutive spaces to stop gathering the relevant credential from the memory. And here we have the methodology in the code for the repetitiveness. We start with a count, the number of 0. We start counting how many times we can find something within the process and the sequence we have choose. And as we can see here, in the third placeholder, we count the number of times found it within the process. And if, say, we found it 1, this is another specific case for a password manager, we can assume that this means that we have found the clear text credentials within the process. Of course, the repetitiveness could not be so stable, so it's either can be used in conjunction with the pattern-based attack to evaluate better results, and in addition to the pattern-based attack. So here we have a small demonstration. The video doesn't work, so I have opened here. Here we will see the Avira browser plugin. The Avira browser plugin had one specific issue. It did not require for the user to enter the master password when you open the browser. So it could allow the attacker to open the browser, dump the process, extract the relevant credentials, and gain access to whatever information the password manager has inside. So starting from here, we see that the attacker can open the browser. We wait for a minute because that's how long the Avira needs to load the credentials, unlock the vault, load the credentials within the process of Chrome, and be able for us to extract them. We execute the open source tool I mentioned before in the previous slides, and we are waiting for identifying the credentials. We have here separated in the left panel the results of the password manager tool, and in the right, the password manager. As we can see here, we have right here this password, the username, and the URL. As you can see here, you can find this information inside. There are 3 entries, as we can see here, which is one of them has a different password. Username, right? The password here, the username here, right? Here is a placeholder that can assist us where we can log in with this information. So let's continue with the slides. Regarding the strengths of this study, as we discussed, in most cases, only user permission is required. We also observe an issue with one password that required high integrity capabilities for the attacker to be able to dump the relevant process. But this was dumped as an out of scope because in most cases, if the UAC is not blocked or handled correctly, you can bypass it. As we observed with the Avira example in the demonstration video, some browser plugins, they do not require for you to open, they do not require for you to enter the master password for the vault to be unlocked. And usually it's a stealthy method to find credentials if we compare it with LSAS or something else. Of course, we have some limitations. I mentioned that before, but I can mention it again, since we are in limitations. We have specific patterns that may change between versions and password managers and browsers and everything else. These are softwares that are being updated. So if they update the relevant pattern we use, for example, this pattern could be used as a variable or a variable name. If they change this name of this particular type of code within their code base, this could also change our pattern. So we will need to evaluate again and identify the correct pattern in the newest version or the latest version. As I mentioned before, repeatedness is a bit unstable. Some password managers can run them multiple times. They do not have all of them the same number of clear text storage within the process. For example, in some cases, you may find 15 instances, and in the other maybe find 20. So it limits your way that you can use that for exploitation, but it can be used as an addition to the pattern-based attack. And of course, there are cases that this pattern may be challenging to be identified. For example, in Firefox, each time you execute it, Firefox had different pattern before and after the password, the clear text information in the process, so it made it a bit difficult to be able to identify the correct information within the process. So now we can see a few product responses. I try to anonymize everything. I have chosen 4 different responses to show you here today. Here we have a VPN response that they say that we are 2 months late for some reason. I don't know if this is a race or not. Okay. And they also showed us one link that uses the pattern-based attack without mentioning our work, but it's fine, okay. The important thing here is that this product does not consider this to be a vulnerability. And based on their explanation, this is because the attacker can only gain this information and can do so much harm inside the network or the device or whatever, just simply finding the username and the password of the VPN. Here we have a more lengthy response. I will try to summarize it to help you because this is too big. Basically, this product accuses us of our research and says that this was not a good research and they cannot follow that research and cannot agree with these results because it's really difficult for them to mitigate this attack and protect their product. Of course, this is partially true because Windows, which is solely in our study, do not offer any way, do not offer any simple way to protect the relevant process from other users, or the same user to dump the process and use it and evaluate it. Another lengthy response. They have issues in this response about the type of ways we did the vulnerability research. In the few sentences, they are saying that they believe that obfuscation, encryption, and everything else does not work within the process, so they shouldn't use that. Although they use the credentials in clear text format, so I do not know which is worse. They also managed to say a few things about, like, we are doing NCC pen test. I do not know why this is helpful for me. I do not care if you do pen test or not. You have a vulnerability in your code. You are storing the credentials in clear text format. But, yeah. And they will also, after all this, happy to discuss it further. I don't know what you can else discuss in this topic, but okay. And here we have the last response. This product wanted to follow a different route. they offered us to report this vulnerability to their bug bounty platform. And usually, from my experience, when you are doing that, they lock you behind the terms and conditions of this platform, and you cannot disclose your finding. So I do not know if this was the case, but I refused to report it to the bug bounty platform, and I requested an answer through email. And they answered that they are out of scope, and they do not care if this is an issue or not. Okay. So, the outcome. We have here 3 different bars from different products. The first bar is about the examinations we did. The second bar, the blue bar, is the issues reported and the relevant CVs we managed to identify it and get. As we can see here, there are some differences. Again, we see the difference that password managers were more susceptible to this attack in comparison to VPNs. As we will see here on, we have 2 cases. This is because we re-examined in the second study the password managers to evaluate what have changed through this first year that we have reported the case and this issue, but the results were almost similar. And here is another bar chart to help you understand what is happening. This is about the responses. Of course, we do not respond. We do not report it in the second case, in the password manager case we examined this year, because it was pointless since we have already reported these issues in the last year. We have here a positive feedback, the negative feedback, and the no answer. So if we take this as an example, you can see that, say, 2 in 3 cases, they do not consider this as a vulnerability. This is the reason they either replied negatively or not at all. The same happens for browsers, but almost the same with VPNs. Maybe because we have some enterprise VPNs in there, and to be honest, one enterprise vendor fixed this issue, Fortinet, which released the relevant CVID, and the other was a commercial one. So it was a positive thing of them to do that. So what have changed after that? We have simply the keeper here. It's not an advertisement or whatsoever, but I really found it interesting. That's why I'm illustrating this here. We have a case they reported in their site that different info stealers, like this type of malicious examples, use this type of attack to harvest saved credentials from browsers and applications. So, as we can see here, they are looking for patterns that match passwords. And starting from that, and not from our study, they released something that suppose it helped them to protect and mitigate this attack. Later on, they say in the methodology they were comparing different cases like zero-knowledge encryption, memory protection userland, memory protection kernelland, everything that should be protected when you have this type of information within your workstation. Here are their results. I do not know if they are correct or not, but I'm illustrating them here for this purpose. They say that they managed to mitigate all this type of attacks, and it was possible for them to mitigate and this attack, of course. So, security guidelines. What we can use to do and protect this type of formation. We can either use encryption, hashing, use memory zeroing, prevent data swapping to disk, restrict privileges. There are so many ways to do that. Of course, there are not only these ways. As you can see here, we have different mitigations. Either are mitigations that the same products can use, and others are mitigations that the same us as a users can implement, like have a 2FA implementation, use and protect ourselves from visiting malicious sites and executing malicious executables. And we can also, in the enterprise environment, use, for example, this type of YARA rule to evaluate and try to mitigate this type of attack. Basically, what we're trying here to do with this simple YARA rule is to try to detect when someone will try to dump the relevant process of our password manager. For example, here we have KeePass. This is an example. We try to catch it, and if there is something inside with either the master or the password word, to flag it as malicious and inform us. So this concludes the presentations. I'm happy to discuss any questions you may have.